All right, I started the recording here. Welcome to week 8. We're getting to the very end here. Got a couple weeks and the class will be over, so it's a quick summer. So this week we have chapter 17 and chapter 18. And as far as assignments go, we have a storage lab and then a research project for NTFS versus share permissions. And you'll do the lab for this next week. It was there earlier, but you actually will do the lab, just like the other labs. You do the research and then do the lab. But there is an actual storage lab that you'll be taking screenshots and answer the questions, place the screenshots and answers to the questions into a Word document and upload that Word document. And so here's the directions in the Word document. So we'll just kind of go over those real quick. All right. All right, so in the net lab, the workstation lab, not the Active Directory lab, but the workstation lab, you can create a new VM, VM3, right? Once VM3 is created, add 3 60 gig hard drives to VM3, and then open the computer management and select the disk management, right? So you'll go in and go right click on this PC if I can get my mouse to work. Go in the management. And then once the computer management comes up, your disk management, right? So this is where you'll deal with the disk in here. I don't have disk on here, but this is where you would do it under the computer management, disk management. Then you're going to create a 20 gig volume on each of the 3 disks and label these volumes as X, Y, and Z. And then, so they need to be the X drive, the Y drive, and the Z drive. There's 20 gigs. You have 60 gigs on the 3 disks. I want you to create 20 gigs on each of the 3 disks, and that should leave you 40 gigs. Then create 3 folders on the C drive, folder 1, folder 2, folder 3, and then use 20 gigs from one of the drives and create a mount point to folder 1, and the label needs to be folder 1, right? And using 20 gigs from another drive, create a mount point to folder 2, and then the last drive, you create 20 gigs and a mount point to folder 3. So then on your C drive, these folders that you created, folder 1, folder 2, folder 3, will now point to these new drives that you've created, folder 1, folder 2, and folder 3. Then you're going to extend the partition that is the mount point for folder 1 by 5 gigs, and extend the partition for mount point folder 2 by 10 gigs, and extend the partition that is a mount point for folder 3 by 15 gigs. All right, and then you're going to shrink drive X by 5 gigs, Y by 10 gigs, and Z by 15 gigs. So basically with these, it's probably good to just take a snapshot for each one of these numbers, right? So when you initialize the drives, when you create the 3 disk volumes, take a snapshot. Take a snapshot after you create the 3 folders. Take a snapshot when you create folder 1, folder 2, folder 3's mounts, right? Take a snapshot for each one of these. Then you're going to create a new mirror volume using all the unallocated space from the drives with the X drive, and then the drive with the Z drive, and then the new volume label needs to be mirror, and the drive letter is M. So you're going to take the drive space off of X drive and Z drive that's not used and create a mirror drive called M. And then you'll open the M drive and create 2 files a bitmap and a new notepad document. And the notepad document type, this is a mirrored drive, right? So you open up notepad and just type in, this is a mirrored drive. Save that on the M drive. Let me see here, and then save it as mirrored.txt, and then create a new bitmap file called mirrored.vmp on this M drive. Then go to the VM settings and remove one of the hard disks and try to remove the last hard disk, disk 4, which should be your Z drive. Did either disk 1 or disk 3 go away? That's the question, right? So answer that question, and then can you still access the files on the M drive? Yes or no. And then what happened to the X or Z drive? And then why did they stay or why didn't they stay? Then remove the missing drive. Add 2 new 60 gig hard drives. Create a strike volume drive, letter S, using the 2 new drives and the drive that has drive Y, and use the maximum space. It should be close to 20 gigs. Label the drive as a striped drive. Take a snapshot. And then with the remaining space on the 2 remaining drives, create a span drive, select drive letter N, and label the drive as a span drive. So, and then take a snapshot of that, and then copy the bit file and text file from the mirror drive to the S and N drives. Go to VM settings and remove hard disk 5. Notice that both S and N drives are now gone. And why is that? And then answer that question. And then remove both the broke volumes. Notice that the remaining disk is unallocated and there is no S or N drive. Create 2 more 60 gig hard drives, initialize the hard drives, close disk management, and open storage spaces. Create a new pool with the 3 blank drives, and notice that you can create a 2-way mirror for about 80 gigs or a parity drive with about 100 gigs of space. Both allow you to lose a single drive and keep your data. Create an S drive using parity, and as you get to have more space, now copy the files from the M drive to the S drive, and then remove disk 6. Check if you can still access the S drive. Add a new hard disk, go back to storage spaces, and add the new disk drive. Then remove the bad disk from the pool. The storage pool should now be healthy and can once again be accessed. And open up the disk management again, and notice that there are no disks that need cleanup, and that the 3 drives that make up the S drive only appear as a single drive on your disk management tool. And that is a lot. I do a bit, but you will learn how to create and manage drives on a Windows 10 machine. So you're going to start off with just creating regular disks, creating regular drives. Then the mount points, these are something interesting where you can create a folder on an existing drive and you point them to another hard disk. And that's just really convenient if you have a lot of users that aren't really easy to traverse drives and all that. You deal with folders, and then as an administrator, you deal with the disk in the back end. Then you can learn how to extend partitions, and so that makes, so if you have an existing drive with so much space, you can expand the space if there's space on the drive. So you get to learn how to extend a partition and how to shrink a partition. Then you get to learn about creating mirror drives and figuring out how they work, and that you can lose a drive in a mirror drive and still not lose your files. And then we add more, and then we get a stripe volume, and you learn that a stripe volume, if you lose a drive, you lose the volume, you lose it, you lose everything on it. It's not like a mirrored drive. And then And then you get to get into storage spaces and create a parity drive, which is like a mirror drive where you can lose a disk. But as you can see, a mirror, you only get 80 gigs or you can get 100 gigs with parity. So you get more space, but still some of the protection that a mirror drive gives you. And then you can see that when you're doing that parity drive, even though it has multiple disks, it appears as one drive in our disk management tool. So like I said, that it is a lot, but it's all fairly easy and doable, and it's right in the most of it's in the computer management, right? So go into this PC, go to management, and disk management. So 90% of this lab is done right here. And so let's see here. I really don't have anything that I can do with this one. I could shrink it. And so if I want to shrink this volume, all right. So I've got size of available space that I can shrink. So I can shrink it by, say, 5,000, right? And I can shrink it. Now I've got almost 5 gigs of unallocated space, right? I can create a new simple volume, right? I can't do a mirrored because I don't have 2 disk drives with the same amount of space. I can't do any of these spanned or stripes because once again I only have 5 gigs. But if I had the 3 60 gig drives, some of these would be options and available. But right now I can only do a simple drive. I can tell it how big it is, right? I'm going to use all 5 gigs. I can tell it what letter, drive letter, so we're creating the X, Y, and Z's to start. So I could create an X, or I can mount it to the folders. So say if I had those folders on the C drive, I could mount it to a folder. And so I can mount it to my data folder, or maybe not. Let's see here, share one. Let's just do a new folder, folder 1. All right, so I can mount all this to folder 1 on the C drive, and so then, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I'm going to create a new folder in C and call it folder 1. Folder 1, just like you would be making. Say OK, and then next, and then I can format it. I can do this, right? I can call it folder 1, and then I will go next and finish. So now I've created folder 1, right? So if I go here to my C drive, I have this folder 1. You can see it's a disk instead of a folder. And so if I go here, I have 5 gigs of space, even though my C drive has 580 gigs available. My folder 1 only has 5 gigs of space available because it's on that smaller drive. So then, of course, I can shrink this, right, or I can delete it. If I had more space, I could extend it, right? So let's do that. Let me go ahead and shrink this here real quick. And we'll shrink it again by another 5 gigs. Now I can well, should be able to extend it, but oh, use simple volume. No, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to delete this. Now I'm going to extend my C back. I'm going to select the amount of space, and we'll go ahead and take all of it back. And so there, so I can shrink, extend drives. So you'll be doing a lot of that in this assignment. Any questions over that? I mean, I know I went over it really fast. But it's just disk management using the computer management tool. So please get working on that, because this is due Sunday, but you can do this in the lab, right? In the net labs, and it's just Windows. There is no Linux version on this one. This is just in Windows, Windows 10. All right, so let's go. So that's the storage lab. Then the NTFS versus shares, right? So you have on folders, you can have NTFS permissions and share permissions. If you share the folder, if you share folders on a machine with other users on the network, you get what's called share permissions. And so that you need to find out the difference between the actual NTFS folder permissions and the share permissions. You have both on a shared folder. If it's not shared, you only have NTFS, and then it just those permissions apply. But there's special permissions. If you have NTFS permissions that contradict share permissions, you have to find out which permission wins and how. Do you have access? Do you not have access? And that's what the purpose of this research is to learn about what is an NTFS permissions, what are they, and what are the share permissions, and then which one wins when if you're accessing it from the network or if you're accessing it locally. It makes a difference on which permission wins. And so write a 2-page paper on that. And then there will be an assignment that you'll have to do next week, not this Sunday, but the next Sunday, using NTFS permissions and shares. So that's this week's assignment, is to research. So other than that, Chapter 17, Chapter 18, we'll have exam 3 next week. So we'll go over that next Monday. We'll go over the exam next Monday, and research project. And so there's an end research project, but that's for week 10. That's all I have. Do you have any questions about anything?
What if we do the lab and we get stuck on a portion and we can't really figure it out? Do we just move to the next section, or everything has to be in order for it to work?
Some of it for the storage labs, some of it has to be in order for it to work. But there are some pieces that you could move on. But just email me or hit me up on Google Hangouts if you run into issues. I'll be glad to work with you to work through it. But yeah, a lot of it in the storage labs does kind of work together a little bit. So going in order makes more sense, because some of them you could probably skip, but not all of them, right? And I'd rather you just not skip them, because it's probably better not to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Just email me. Let me know you're stuck. A good question. Very good question. Yeah. Um, but yeah, because some of this, really does depend on where the drives are, what you've already got configured, and so yeah, it's kind of one of those that does have to kind of go in order. So better safe than sorry. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Um, well, I think that's all I have for this evening then. Appreciate you stopping by and being with us. And oh, let me go ahead and stop the recording here.